In this lesson, we're going to review what a midpoint is and how to solve algebraic problems involving a midpoint. So the first thing is what a midpoint, definition of a midpoint. So a midpoint is a point in the middle of a segment. So basically, if I have this segment with endpoints, the midpoint is going to be in the middle of that segment. So what's going to happen is it's going to divide the segment into two equal parts. So if this entire segment, let's say, has a length of 20, then each part would have to be 10 if M is the midpoint, if it's the point in the middle. So that's the main thing, is it's a point in the middle of a segment. To shorten up our description for it, I often abbreviate midpoint like this, MDPT, so for midpoint. And a midpoint means that you're going to get two congruent segments. That's what it implies. So whenever you know you have a midpoint, it means that the two parts are going to be congruent. You could also say a midpoint divides a segment into two congruent parts, but for me, this is way shorter. Midpoint implies two congruent segments. So when we're doing algebraic problems, we're going to make sure that we use that as our reason. So for the first example here, it tells us that M is the midpoint of AB. Anytime you do a geometry problem and there's not a diagram, you want to make sure that you're drawing that diagram. So don't try to do these in your head without a diagram. So M is the midpoint of AB. So that means AB are the endpoints and M is in the middle. So I'm going to try to make it look like the middle. It might not be perfect. But if I know it's a midpoint, then that means I know that those two parts are congruent. So that means my reason for what I'm going to do is a midpoint implies two congruent segments. So you want to have that on the problem. So that's why we can mark those two parts equal. So we were given the midpoint, so I marked AM and MB are congruent. So now I can label what they give me. So they give me, this is 3x minus 4, MB is x plus 6. So they're giving me the two parts this time, and they want me to find the length of AB. So if they want me to find the length of AB, they want a number for it. They don't want it in terms of x. So like, you don't want to just combine like terms and tell me that's what AB is. So I have to first solve for x. So my first step is going to be find x. And in order to do that, you have to look at what they give you. So in this time, they're giving me the two parts. The two parts are equal. There's going to be situations where they might give you one part and they give you the whole entire segment. In that case, you would have to multiply that one part by 2 and set it equal to the whole segment, or just label each part with the same expression and then add them up, set it equal to the whole segment. This time they're giving me the two parts. It's the parts that are equal. So I can just set these ones equal because it's the two parts of the segment. So I can set 3x minus 4 equal to x plus 6. And then I can solve it. So I can bring the x over, bring the 4 over to the other side. So those cancel. So I get 2x equals 10. Divide, I get x equals 5. So that's the first part. I'm trying to find the length of AB. So the second part of this is going to be to find AB, which is what the question actually asks me. So if I plug in for AB, I'm going to plug into each part. So if I plug in 5, I get 15 minus 4, so I get 11 for that part, which should be the same for this, but it's good just to check it. So when you add 5 and 6, you get 11. So since the two parts are 11, so AB is going to be 11 plus 11, which is going to give me 22. So the whole segment is 22, and each of the parts are 11.